The vast emptiness of space stretched before the UES horizon, a sleek exploration vessel cutting through the darkness of the Andromeda sector. Lieutenant Hyun-Ki Park sat in the command chair, his eyes scanning the holographic displays that flickered with cosmic data. Something was different today, a subtle tension hummed through the ship's systems. A sharp beep interrupted the routine monitoring. Hyun-Ki leaned forward, his fingers dancing across the control panel. An alien vessel appeared on the long-range scanners, critically damaged and losing power rapidly. Most captains would have ignored the distress signal. Most captains would have continued their predetermined mission. But Hyun-Ki was not most captains. "Prepare rescue protocols," he called to his bridge crew. They exchanged quick glances. Rescuing an unknown alien vessel was risky, potentially dangerous. Yet no one questioned the order. The damaged ship looked like nothing humans had encountered before. Its hull was a strange metallic blue, covered in intricate geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with a dying energy. As the horizon approached, they could see multiple hull breaches and signs of severe external damage. Inside the alien vessel, Princess Yoon-ji Kim was experiencing her own moment of desperation. Her ship had been ambushed by rival space marauders, leaving her and her small crew trapped with rapidly depleting life support. She watched her navigation systems fail, one by one, knowing that death was approaching. Hyun-Ki's rescue team prepared their specialized environmental suits. They would need to be careful. Alien atmospheres could be unpredictable, potentially lethal. The boarding team included medical specialists, engineering experts, and security personnel, each trained for the unexpected. As they breached the alien vessel's airlock, the first thing they noticed was the strange, almost luminescent atmosphere. Thin wisps of blue-green vapor drifted through corridors that seemed to be constructed from materials completely foreign to human engineering. Their suit sensors worked overtime, analyzing every molecule, every potential threat. Princess Yoon-ji heard the first sounds of the rescue team approaching. Her people's culture was built on survival, on calculated risks and cold strategic thinking. Yet here were these humans, risking their own lives to save complete strangers. It was a concept almost impossible to comprehend in her society. The rescue team found survivors huddled in a central chamber. Their life support was minutes away from total failure. Hyun-Ki personally led the extraction, guiding injured aliens onto emergency medical transporters. Each movement was precise, calculated, yet filled with an underlying compassion that seemed to radiate from the human rescuers. Princess Yoon-ji watched the lieutenant with a mixture of confusion and growing respect. In her world, such selfless action was unknown. Every interaction was a transaction, every rescue came with an expected price. But these humans seemed driven by something else, something she couldn't immediately understand. When the last survivor was transferred, Hyun-Ki ensured the alien vessel's critical systems were stabilized. They wouldn't let the ship completely die, a gesture that would prove significant in the coming interactions between their species. Medical teams worked quickly, treating the injured aliens using universal medical protocols developed for potential first contact scenarios. Language was initially a barrier, but advanced translation technologies bridged the communication gap. As the initial rescue concluded, Princess Yoon-ji found herself studying the humans, particularly Lieutenant Park. His actions had saved not just her life, but the lives of her entire crew. In her culture, such a debt could only be repaid in one fundamental way. A way that would soon create a complex diplomatic challenge. The UES Horizon continued its journey, now carrying a group of alien survivors and the beginning of what would become a remarkable interstellar relationship. Neither the humans nor the aliens knew exactly what would come next, but the seeds of a profound connection had been planted in the cold, silent expanse of space. Little did they know, this rescue would change everything. In the medical bay of the UES Horizon, Princess Yoon-ji sat studying the humans around her. Every movement, every interaction fascinated her. The medical staff worked together seamlessly, sharing tasks, supporting each other without obvious hierarchy or transactional expectation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez noticed Yoon-ji's intense observation. "Is everything okay?" she asked, adjusting a medical scanner. Yoon-ji tilted her head. Among her people, such casual interaction between different ranks was unthinkable. In the Viridian Collective, every interaction was carefully calculated, every relationship defined by strict social protocols. Lieutenant Hyun-Ki Park entered the medical bay, carrying data tablets and medical reports. He noticed Yoonji's curious expression and approached her. "How are you feeling?" he asked simply. The princess observed him carefully. Her translator interpreted his words, but the underlying cultural meaning remained complex. In her world, such a question would require a detailed accounting of physical and strategic health, not a simple social courtesy. "I am functional," she responded, her language precise and measured. Hyun-Ki smiled, a human gesture that momentarily confused her. Smiles in her culture were strategic communications, not spontaneous expressions of emotion. Over the next few days, Yoonji learned about human cooperation. She watched crew members help each other without expecting immediate compensation. An engineer would assist another with a technical problem. A cook would prepare extra food for a tired colleague. A medical worker would cover another's shift. These actions defied everything she understood about societal interactions. "Why do you help each other without clear benefit?" she asked Hyun-Ki during a briefing. The lieutenant paused, considering her question. "Because it's the right thing to do," he explained. "We believe in collective survival, in supporting each other." Yoonji's cultural programming struggled to comprehend this concept. In the Viridian Collective, every action had a precise calculated outcome. Help was a transaction, friendship a strategic alliance, survival a mathematical equation. Humans seemed to operate on something more complex, something involving emotions, trust, and collective well-being that transcended immediate personal gain. The ship's cultural exchange sessions became her primary learning environment. She discovered human concepts like empathy, volunteerism, and community. These were not just words, but lived practices that seemed deeply integrated into human social structures. During one session, a junior technician shared his lunch with an older crew member who was working late. When Yoonji asked about the transaction details, the technician looked confused. He looked tired. "I wanted to help," was the simple explanation. Such casual kindness was revolutionary to her understanding of social interactions. Hyun-Ki began explaining human history, how their species had evolved through cooperation, how they had survived by supporting each other during challenging times. From prehistoric tribes sharing resources to modern space exploration teams working collectively, humans had consistently chosen collaborative survival over individual advancement. The Viridian princess realized her entire cultural framework was being challenged. Her people saw interactions as complex mathematical equations, each relationship a carefully balanced algorithm of give and take. Humans seemed to operate on a different principle entirely. Their kindness wasn't weakness. It was a sophisticated survival strategy that allowed them to adapt, grow, and explore in ways her rigid society could not comprehend. As days passed, Yoonji's perception slowly transformed. She began understanding that human compassion was not a vulnerability, but a strength. Their ability to help without immediate expectation of return was not illogical, it was a higher form of strategic thinking. And somewhere in this cultural collision, a profound understanding was beginning to take shape, an understanding that would change both their species forever. The diplomatic conference room buzzed with tension. Representatives from Earth and the Viridian Collective sat facing each other, a holographic display flickering between them. Princess Yoonji stood, her posture rigid and formal, preparing to make a declaration that would shock everyone present. Lieutenant Hyun-Ki Park watched her carefully, sensing something significant was about to happen. The past weeks of cultural exchange had been complex, filled with misunderstandings and gradual comprehension. "I formally propose marriage to Lieutenant Hyun-Ki Park," Yoonji announced, her voice clear and precise. The room fell silent. Earth's diplomats exchanged bewildered glances. The Viridian representatives looked equally surprised, though for entirely different reasons. Hyun-Ki remained composed, but confusion flickered across his face. He understood now that in Viridian culture, marriage was the ultimate form of debt repayment, a way to completely settle an outstanding obligation. The human ambassador, a seasoned diplomat named Michael Chen, cleared his throat. "Could you explain the reasoning behind this proposal?" he asked carefully. Yoonji explained the Viridian cultural mandate. In her society, a life-saving rescue created an absolute debt that could only be settled through complete personal commitment. By saving her life during the space rescue, Hyun-ki had activated a complex social protocol that demanded total repayment. "This is not a romantic proposal," she clarified. "This is a formal cultural transaction of gratitude and obligation." Hyun-ki understood the delicate situation. Rejecting the proposal could cause serious diplomatic complications. Accepting it would create an unprecedented interspecies marriage with massive political implications. The Viridian delegation watched intently. Their cultural observers were recording every moment, analyzing the human response to this traditional obligation. For them, this was a test of cross-species diplomatic understanding. Earth's diplomatic team huddled in quiet discussion. They recognized the potential breakthrough and potential disaster. This proposal represented a human-Viridian marriage could open incredible diplomatic channels, or it could create insurmountable cultural tensions. Hyun-ki knew his response would impact not just his personal life, but potentially the entire relationship between humans and the Viridian collective. He needed to navigate this carefully, respecting Yoonji's cultural traditions while protecting diplomatic relationships. "I appreciate the depth of your cultural gesture," he said carefully. "But our relationship requires more nuanced understanding." The Viridian observers leaned forward. This was not a rejection, but not a complete acceptance either. It was a sophisticated diplomatic response that showed respect while maintaining personal agency. Yoonji studied him, recognizing the complex communication happening beneath the words. She was learning that human interactions involved layers of meaning far more intricate than her society's direct transactional approach. The conference continued for hours. Lawyers, cultural experts, and diplomatic specialists dissected every aspect of the proposal. They discussed potential compromise solutions that would honor both human individual choice and Viridian cultural mandates. What began as a simple proposal of marriage was transforming into a groundbreaking diplomatic negotiation. It represented more than a personal interaction, it was a moment of potential mutual understanding between two completely different civilizations. Hyun-ki and Yoonji found themselves at the center of this complex diplomatic dance. Their personal interaction had become a symbolic representation of how different species might learn to communicate, understand, and respect each other. As the conference concluded, no final decision was made. But something important had happened. A conversation had begun, a conversation that might reshape how intelligent species understand obligation, gratitude, and connection. The unexpected proposal had opened a door to something much larger than a simple marriage. It was the beginning of a potentially revolutionary interspecies dialogue. The observation deck of the UES Horizon became an unexpected meeting place for Hyun-ki and Yoonji. Stars stretched across the massive window, silent witnesses to their growing connection. Neither fully understood the complexity of their developing relationship. Yoonji brought Viridian cultural records. Hyun-ki shared human historical documents. They began comparing their species' approaches to survival, cooperation, and social structures. What started as a clinical exchange gradually transformed into something more nuanced. "In my culture," Yoonji explained, "survival is a mathematical equation. Every interaction has a precise calculated outcome." Hyun-ki listened carefully. He understood now that her perspective wasn't cold, it was a different form of understanding survival. The Viridian approach was logical, designed to maximize species preservation through carefully planned interactions. Human history, by contrast, showed survival through adaptation, emotional connection, and collective support. They survived not just through calculation, but through empathy and shared experience. During their conversations, something unexpected happened. They began to see value in each other's perspectives. Yoonji appreciated the human capacity for spontaneous kindness. Hyun-ki recognized the efficiency of the Viridian strategic approach. Their discussions went beyond cultural exchange. They explored personal histories, individual experiences that shaped their understanding of the universe. Yoonji shared stories of Viridian space exploration. Hyun-ki talked about his family's journey from Earth's southern regions. The ship's crew watched this developing interaction with curiosity. It was more than a diplomatic meeting. Something deeper was happening, a genuine attempt to understand each other beyond cultural boundaries. Yoonji learned about human concepts like friendship, which had no direct translation in her language. Hyunki discovered the Viridian approach to collective decision-making, which was far more sophisticated than he initially understood. Their conversations became a bridge between two completely different ways of understanding existence. They discovered similarities beneath their apparent differences. Both species valued survival. Both sought to understand the universe. Both had complex social structures designed to protect their people. The original proposal of marriage became less important than the connection they were developing. They were creating something new, a form of understanding that transcended traditional diplomatic interactions. Scientific teams began studying their interactions. This was more than a cultural exchange, it was a potential breakthrough in interspecies communication. How two fundamentally different intelligent species could find common ground became a fascinating research project. Hyunki introduced Yoonji to human music. She was fascinated by the emotional complexity of artistic expression. Viridian communication was precise, mathematical. Human art seemed chaotic, filled with unexpressed meanings. Yoonji shared Viridian mathematical models of universal interaction. Hyunki was amazed by the complexity of their predictive systems. What humans saw as random, the Viridians could calculate with incredible precision. Their personal connection became a metaphor for potential interspecies cooperation. They were proving that fundamental differences could be bridges, not barriers. The original cultural misunderstanding, the marriage proposal, now seemed like a distant starting point. They had moved beyond a transactional interaction into something more profound. As their understanding deepened, both Hyunki and Yoonji realized they were part of something larger than themselves. They were not just representatives of their species, but potential architects of a new form of interstellar communication. The stars outside continued their silent journey, witnessing this unexpected connection between two beings from completely different worlds. What had begun as a rescue mission was transforming into something neither could have predicted. Mutual understanding was not about erasing differences, they discovered. It was about respecting those differences while finding the fundamental connections that unite intelligent beings. Their conversation continued, a delicate dance of words, ideas, and growing respect. The universe watched, waiting to see what would emerge from this remarkable connection. The United Earth Council chamber fell silent as Hyunki and Yoonji presented their groundbreaking proposal. Instead of a traditional marriage, they suggested a diplomatic partnership that would reshape interstellar relationships between humans and the Viridian collective. "We propose a joint exploration initiative," Hyunki announced, his voice steady and clear. Yoonji stood beside him, a visual representation of their collaborative approach. The proposal was revolutionary. It combined Viridian strategic planning with human adaptive exploration techniques. Their model suggested a new way of intergalactic cooperation that went beyond traditional diplomatic frameworks. Earth's representatives studied the detailed documents. The Viridian delegation analyzed every mathematical projection. What seemed impossible months ago now looked like a potential blueprint for future interspecies collaboration. Their partnership would combine Viridian computational precision with human creative problem-solving. They proposed joint research missions, shared technological development, and collaborative exploration of uncharted star systems. The initial rescue that brought them together now seemed like a small moment in a much larger journey. Hyunki and Yoonji had become more than individual representatives, they were living proof that fundamental differences could be transformed into strength. Scientific teams from both species began developing integrated research protocols. Viridian mathematical models would guide human exploration. Human adaptive strategies would complement Viridian systematic approaches. Their first joint mission would explore a complex star system with multiple potentially habitable planets. Where previous missions might have failed, their combined approach promised unprecedented success. Political leaders recognized the significance. This was more than a diplomatic agreement. It represented a fundamental shift in how intelligent species might interact and explore the universe. Yoonji explained the Viridian perspective of calculated risk. Hyunki shared human stories of exploratory spirit. Together, they painted a compelling picture of collaborative potential. The universal translators struggled to capture the nuanced communication happening between them. Their interaction was becoming a language of its own, a bridge between two completely different ways of understanding existence. News networks across human colonies broadcast their presentation. The Viridian communication networks similarly shared every detail. What had started as a rescue mission was now a potential turning point in interstellar relations. Training programs began developing new protocols. Young scientists from both species would learn integrated approaches to space exploration. The rigid boundaries between species were slowly dissolving. Hyunki's original rescue mission now seemed like a distant memory. They had transformed a moment of crisis into an opportunity for unprecedented cooperation. The partnership wasn't about erasing differences. It was about finding strength in those differences. Viridian precision would complement human creativity. Human adaptability would enhance Viridian strategic planning. Their personal connection had become a symbol of something much larger. They represented possibility, the potential for intelligent species to move beyond limited understanding and create something entirely new. The first joint mission would launch in 6 months. Research teams were already preparing, combining equipment, developing integrated communication systems, and creating new collaborative technologies. Space exploration agencies from multiple human colonies began restructuring their approach. The Viridian research networks did the same. A new era of cooperative exploration was beginning. Hyunki and Yoonji stood together, watching the initial mission preparations. They were no longer just representatives of their species. They had become something more, architects of a new way of understanding the universe. The stars outside seemed to shimmer with possibility. What had begun as a simple rescue mission had transformed into a blueprint for interstellar cooperation. Their partnership proved that differences could be bridges, not barriers. Calculation could coexist with creativity. Precision could work alongside adaptability. As the first collaborative mission prepared for launch, Hyunki and Yoonji understood they were part of something much larger than themselves. They were writing a new chapter in the story of intelligent exploration. The universe waited, full of unknown possibilities, ready to be discovered through this new, unprecedented approach to understanding.